is our guy, Mike Milbury. Michael, good morning.
It's a lovely morning, isn't it?
How's the Cape summer going so far?
It's the weather's been just spectacular the last couple of weeks. So it's and down here we got a good little breeze, and I'm thrilled with that.
Can you weigh in quickly on Scheim and the breakfast?
Did Courtney say something good about Scheim this morning?
The breakfast
Besides
ball,
pushing the buttons properly?
the breakfast ball it does not exist. It is a stroke is a stroke. Am I correct?
No, not if you're like my age and just learning to play. Then you get one on every hole.
All right. Well, how are you feeling in the immediate aftermath of this trade?
I don't think it was a steal by any stretch of the imagination. They got a first round pick, but when you're picking 25, that's a crapshoot. And it's hey, listen, it's a chance. It's a lottery ball, and go ahead and take it. But it's, they had to eat some money. Korpisalo, unless I miss my reading glasses, he's got 4 more years on a contract that's pretty healthy. I know that the Ottawa Senators took some money, but the other guy is he's Kostelek is a 4th line player who doesn't skate very well. It's sort of a reaction to Florida being out muscling the Bruins maybe a little bit, and he could be okay in that role, but it's not anything to get particularly excited about. So, they downgrade their second goalie, but he's okay. And they pick up a chip with Kostelek, who can play on the 4th line, but needs to get his wheels going a little bit better. And they roll the dice with a first round pick, and that for, after signing Linus Ullmark for nothing. He was a free agent, so I guess it's a little bit of a bonus, but it's not a huge haul.
But wasn't Don Sweeney in a bit of a pickle anyway, because Ullmark had the say in where he went? You couldn't get that deal done based on his reluctance with L.A. last year. And you have a year left. He's only got a year left. You didn't extend that. So didn't he get the best that he could have from the position that he was in?
Yeah, well, the position he was in was the position he was in because he put himself in that. He gave him half the league not to trade, and I guess L.A. was one of the teams that he couldn't trade him to, so you got to live with that. But that's the price you pay when you're dealing with a free agent. You sell your soul to the devil when you're trying to sign these guys. You usually overpay and give them more protection than maybe they should have gotten. But in the end, listen, it all works out. I think Swayman should be the number 1 guy. Korpisalo is certainly a good 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call him. But he's a seasoned professional, and I wish it was a little less on the money side. And if I were one of the Bruins goaltenders in the organization, I'd be not particularly happy today.
Mike, you saying that the backup it went down a little bit when it comes to talent, but he is a seasoned vet. Does it worry you at all that Swayman's going to be looking over his shoulder when it comes to Jonas behind him?
No, I don't think that's going to be a problem whatsoever. Swayman has got a swagger about him and a confidence that I love, and I have for some time. You guys have heard me talk about it, and I think he's earned the right to be the number 1 goaltender. And Korpisalo is, he's going to be very functional as a backup, and a guy that can play 30 games, 25, 30 games, whatever they decide is the appropriate amount for Swayman to get not only playing time but rest and be ready for the playoffs. It's not a problem for me.
Mike, when you look at this moving forward, is the biggest thing for this Bruins team, we kind of just been discussing it in free agency, is offensive help or defensive help, in your opinion?
For me, they have to address the gap in the center position. I mean, listen, Zacha and Coyle played as well as they could play under the circumstances, trying to replace Krejci and Bergeron, but they're out of position. They were slotted in the wrong spots, and they did as much as they could possibly do. Well, maybe Zacha not quite as much in the playoffs. I mean, he finally scored a playoff goal, but it's not ideal when those guys are playing in slots that they shouldn't be playing in. So the number one pick for me is that finding somebody to play in a top center position that can distribute the puck and play in his own zone as well. So I think offense for me. But one thing they did do, and I think was needed to be done, is they hired a defensive coach, and Jay Leach, who's didn't have a prolific NHL career, but has done very well as a minor league coach. He needs to find a way to corral Charlie McAvoy. He was all over the place during the playoffs, and I love him. His talent is great. His lateral mobility is tremendous on the blue line. He needs to shoot a little bit more, but he needs to get his game under control. And the other thing I'd say to the Bruins or Jay Leach is go out and find a good shoe store with really stiff shoes and find a way to practice kicking somebody in the ass, because that's what they need to do with Lindholm. That guy should be a really solid player, but he comes in like it's just another day at the beach. And, that's good if you're living on Cape Cod, but not if you're playing for the Bruins. And Lindholm needs to wake the hell up.
What is it with you and shoes?
That's a good question.
It's all about keeping the feet comfortable.
Yeah, that's right.
So Wiggy has a big issue with Connor McDavid being given the Conn Smythe last night.
I agree.
You do?
I do. I agree. Where was he last night? This is the biggest game in maybe, decades in the National Hockey League. And, there were a couple of quick flashes. He and Draisaitl were shut down. I mean, I give Florida credit. We talked about their relentless checking, and it finally reasserted itself last night. And I guess you got to give the coach as well as the players some credit. They came back, and trust me, when you're up 3-0 and you're all of a sudden facing elimination as well as a championship, the heat is on. And they wound up doing things that they were doing early in the series and in the playoffs that made them so successful. But hey, listen, McDavid was great for 3 games, but there were 4 games when he wasn't so good. And I certainly wouldn't have given him the MVP, and I don't like giving the MVP to a player that's on the losing side, to be honest with you. I mean, Bobrovsky was pretty good, don't you agree? He was pretty outstanding. He had some moments, that were not so good. And by the way, speaking of not so good moments, the winning goal was a disaster for Edmonton. The first of all, don't blame it entirely on the goaltender, although you can blame significantly on it. Kulak, the defenseman, backed in, scared to death, couldn't stay up. They had 4 defenders back, Edmonton did, to 3 attacking players from the Florida side, and the defenseman backed into the the lower part of the circle and gave him gave a good goal scorer, an unbelievable opportunity. And if he can recover from that, God bless him, because I don't think I could. It was just a disastrous play by him, a decision by him. He was so indecisive, so lacking in confidence. When you have a player like Reinhart, you want to stay up near the top of the blue line and force him to make a play from outside, not let him drift into the middle of the shooting zones and snipe a shot like he did. And yeah, the goaltender was at fault as well, no doubt about it.
No, knowing the Jacobs family as well as you do you think the Celtics winning banner?
I don't know them that well, and I don't want to.
But the Celtics winning it all, does that put any added pressure on them when it comes to spending and doing what they need to do?
I don't live in the rarefied billionaire air, but I don't think there's any pressure on any of the Jacobs people. I mean, I'm sure Charlie wants to win. He's got some good people around him, and they spend to the max, doing the best they can. But pressure, I don't think they're going to feel that. I think Cam Neely and Don Sweeney feel pressure that they want to get back to where shouldn't say get back to where they were. They're still in a pretty good spot, but they want to get back to another championship. And I think they're going to feel some heat on themselves. That's what they are, competitors. And I think they know what they need. They made the deal for Ullmark. I think it's going to open the doors for Swayman to be a better goaltender than he already is. And I think they know that they have to find a way to get a quality centerman or 2, whether it's via the draft, which is a crapshoot at 25, as I told you, or certainly And Poitras could be a guy that they count on. I'm not sure I would be counting on him, but certainly in free agency, if they can do it, or via the trade route, which is, they don't have that many assets to deal with now.
Mike, you've been in many different organizations. You'd be well suited to answer this. Do we overstate that owners really do care at any part of any hockey team? Or, how rare is a guy like Wick that seems to genuinely just want to do it to win?
You know what? It's a good question. I think they all want to win. They all want to win for ego. I don't think many of them understand what goes into winning. Not many of them have played, not many of them have coached or managed, but they know what they've done in other businesses, and sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. I think the commitment to give the people that you hire the resources in order to get the job done is paramount, and certainly the Celtics have done that, and I can't say that the Bruins haven't done that for the last while. They, as I said, paid to the cap and hired some good people to work for them, and I've got no complaints. I can't speak to the Red Sox and their squirrely owner, but and the Crafts have been in a pretty good spot for a long time, and now they're gonna have to find their way out of this mess.
When it comes to Bruins fans, any comfort in the fact that you were eliminated by the eventual Stanley Cup champions?
Yeah, I felt that way before, since I've been close to the chalice many times, but never able to grab it. And it feels good for a little while, and then it still sucks.
All right, Mike. So what do you give this this trade? A B, a C? What's the grade from you?
I guess I'd give it a B minus. I was hoping for something better. I was hoping, they would grab a nasty defenseman along the way, or something like that. I'm not a big believer that this pick is going to turn into anything, but you never know. So I'd say B minus, B at best.
Okay. All right. That's Mike Milbury.